What's up, party people? Dr. Doug McGannon here from Rise and Roar, and gonna sit down, or I have sat down with Trevor Tyson from Heal the Hurt. I want to share this interview with you that I did with him. He and I sat down back in December and had a really great conversation about some things that are very close to both of our hearts. He's become just a dear friend, and I appreciate the work he's doing. We talk a lot about kind of the intersection of faith and mental health, and how we are trying to help people who are struggling with mental health difficulties and issues. And so just had a lot of great things to say. By the way, if you're into metalcore or heavy music of any kind, you got to check these guys out, healthehurtband.com. And he's going to tell us a lot more about what they're up to. I know they're touring, getting ready to tour right now. I've got some new music come out, some new collabs coming out. Hey, listen, check out healthehurtband.com and all the initiatives that he's a part of that he mentions during this interview. I'm actually going to leave links in the show notes for those, so you can go check those out. Just some really important stuff that Trevor is involved in, and you guys need to check it out and get behind it if you can. But I hope you enjoy this interview. Trevor is an amazing individual, and the band is just off the charts, and they are doing a lot of great stuff right now. So enjoy this interview. Shout out to us if you can. We love you, and I hope you're having a great week. God bless. And with your thumb on the pulse of this culture, that we are reeling in a crisis. And I don't even call it a crisis. I call it a catastrophe, because politics, social, and everything else in the midst of this, it's just turned this whole thing on edge. And I really believe Jesus has the answer, and Christians can put that answer forth, but we need to do it effectively. I don't know your thoughts on that.
The thing that I've noticed, especially over the last year, is mental health and faith. There's like a gray area where they intersect, and it's like people are beginning to talk about it more and more, especially from the pulpit, but there is no one size fits all. And in my personal life, especially being like with heavy music in like preteens into high school, I didn't want to listen to Hillsong. I didn't want to listen to CCM or the lighter music.
Yeah.
I connected with the heavy music, and being in a small town in Georgia, they're all listening to country music and yee, like, let's get it, guys. And I never related with that. But when I would listen to bands that were screaming their emotions out, I felt at peace, and I felt understood and heard. And when I started struggling with anxiety and panic attacks myself, and it started to cripple my life, I would turn on heavy music, and it's just always been a comfort for me. And the interesting thing about being a Christian, and more so like the secular realm of heavy music, is people in the church judge it just as hard as people that don't believe in God. So we get judged just as hard from the Christians as we do the non-believers. And there's people that need to hear it. And just because you have those dividing forces coming at you from each angle, it doesn't discount the people that are sitting in the back pew or the back row of the church that don't feel like they relate with anyone else in there. And that's why it's important for me, like as a person, not an artist, to provide something for that person, me, essentially, what I needed to hear and what was so influential to me, and continuing to live and continuing to trust that there is something bigger to my life and there is a calling. Without Jesus, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be alive.
Mhm.
And the communication that resonates the most with me is metal music. And that's why I stepped into the role I'm in now with being a metal vocalist. And I've got a passion for Jesus. I've got love for Jesus. I know that there's a lot of people that won't listen to a pastor, but they'll listen to me scream about it. And especially people that are hearing this and are like, oh, that's demonic. Like, don't judge a book by its cover. Communication, and like you said, music is like a universal language that people gravitate towards. It might not be for you. Nobody stops and says that. It's like it's either heretical or it's amazing. Don't judge a book by its cover. So like the whole rock metal side of the faith-based realm is just as valid, and it is used in a very beautiful way. Like I said, some people don't get it, but the people that do, that's who it's for.
Yeah. So I want to step back for just a moment. I had the opportunity to meet you. My first interaction with you was this past summer.
Sure.
Kingdom Come Festival.
Yep.
My son, actually, he and I took a trip this summer, and he introduced me to your music. And so, it was definitely on the schedule for us to see Heal the Hurt and get a chance to talk to you afterwards. It was just a real blessing. But for those who may not know who you are, who may not know anything about you, give us some backstory. Who is Trevor? Who is your band, and what's kind of led you to the place where you are right now?
It's a loaded question. I'm Trevor Tyson. I'm the vocalist for Heal the Hurt. We are a metalcore band. I'm based in a small town in Georgia called Social Circle, and just a normal person, just like anybody else. I wake up and put my pants on the exact same way. Most likely. There are some people that put it on weird, but we're not going to get into that. I've always known like church and Christianity and Jesus in particular, but my feeling now as a 28-year-old is my real testimony to where I am now didn't really start until I was 25. Like I said, I grew up in the church. I started struggling with anxiety and depression and really bad panic attacks in senior year of high school. And I was interning for a major Christian organization and touring the country, missing a lot of school, living the dream. And I loved music, but I didn't know that it was an option to do because I grew up in a very sports-centered household, and it didn't really cultivate a place to explore music other than just really loving it. Fast forward to the age of 20, I had been touring since I was about 15, and I started a media company and started working with what I would call the giants of the Christian world behind the scenes in the marketing and development and branding side of it. And I was successful in that. And at the age of 25, I hit severe burnouts so bad that I ended up in the ER. I wasn't taking care of myself. I had been at a festival all weekend, didn't really eat, wasn't taking care of my body, but it was my body sounding an alarm that something's wrong. And I just kept ignoring it and ignoring it and ignoring it like most men do because we're peanut brained in a lot of regards, hard headed. And I had to go to the hospital. My body was decaying. It was starting to eat itself. And while it was one of the darkest times for me because I didn't want to be here anymore, it forced me to take time away from my work life and podcasting and all the things that gave me a platform and provided my lifestyle. And in that bed, I was like, God, like, I need you to give me life because I don't have one. I am consumed in this and I don't know how to get out. And that 3 weeks off gave me the boredom and time that I needed to sit and listen and shut up for once, because the brand that my whole agency and platform was built on was called Trevor Talks. And people would always say, you're such a good listener and you ask all these questions, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, on camera, I did. Off camera, I wasn't listening. And Heal the Hurt was birthed out of a lot of pain but there's been a lot of healing that's taken place. And being able to sit down and realize that I'm a sinner, saved by grace. I have selfish ambition. Every single one of us do. I'm aware of it, and I repent of that daily. As time went on and we started releasing music about close to 2 years, it was last March, so March of 2024 is when we released our first song. I had never done music before. It was accompanied by a music video that was showing the dark times of my life in a cabin. Like, everything was there for a reason. I grew up in the woods in cabins and things like that, so it was very important that it took place in a log cabin, but it was following what it looks like to be decaying from panic attacks and anxiety disorder. And that set, it told everyone what the message was, and it answered the question, why are you doing this? And it's like to shine a light on things that people don't like to talk about, especially for men. And through releasing music and the EP and touring and going overseas even, it's been the most humbling season of life. And me as a 28-year-old now, I'm like, I understand that I'm never going to have all the answers, and that's okay. And if there's one thing that I do my best to try to encourage people to do, it's stop and listen and repent and be open to change. So that's my story in a nutshell. And where I am currently is figuring it out. I don't have all the answers. I never will. And since I've pressed into my calling, I can happily say that, like, the panic attacks and stuff, like, they're almost non-existent. Leading up to shows, I have like anticipatory anxiety, and I know it's going to be there. It's just excitement and adrenaline and all the things the days leading up. And then once I hear the intro music start, you might have seen me if you had a good angle closer to the stage. I'm just on my face praying and crying, like right when that intro music hits. And it's like, this probably isn't or a good way to get prepped, but there's so much gratitude and joy and unworthiness that hits me. And it's like, on paper, it's like, yeah, you probably shouldn't do that. But that's just, I wanted to share that to say, God uses broken people, and he will give you the desires of your heart. And a lot of times, like, your heart can be deceptive, but when you start pursuing your calling, those childish dreams can become a reality, and you can't get ahead of God on it. You can't. You've got to step back and let him work, and it starts within your heart. So like I said, like, I'll never be a perfect person, and I'm always, like, when I stub my toe, I'm not praising the Lord, but I try to constantly remind myself of where I was and where I am now and how grateful I am, and being able to tell a story that people relate with, unfortunately, more common than not. We're all broken. We've all got issues. If you're struggling with something, you got to talk about it. And like you were talking about a little bit earlier, counseling, therapy was a huge thing for me, and so was medication, and still is. It's not demonic. It's not a potion. It's not going to fix everything, but it is a tool for the tool belt. So it's a little bit of my story and the realizations that I've had that led me to this conversation right now.
Yeah, and I think it's important that you've said a lot of those things. There's such a stigma surrounding a lot of this, and especially, I've just done a huge dissertation, a research project on the stigma within the church, among Christians, and we stigmatize deeply on these things. So it's good to hear you say that. I think two things that stand out to me in some of your words here is that, number one, when you say God uses broken people, there's a lot of truth and a lot of weight to that. But I think there's two things there to consider. Number one, yes, even in your brokenness, God is calling you, and you don't have to wait to have it all together for him to use you. If we look back historically through the scriptures and even, culturally throughout history, we see more times than not God using the people that are on their face or often on their back, right? They're just broken, they're falling apart. So part of the encouragement I want to bring to people is that if God has put a call on your life, and if you're alive, you have a call on your life, you need to discover what that is, but you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be put together to begin to pursue that. You just begin to pursue him. And I think the other thing that stands out to me with what you were talking about is a lot of times, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but, people see you up on stage. They see a lot of these other artists on stage or athletes or actors or whatever, and they think, well, in order for that person to be up there, they really got it together. They know what they're doing, right? And I think there's a mythology there that has to be broken down that says, like you said earlier, you get up in the morning, you put your pants on, you go to work, you get things done. It's not about having it all together. It's about pursuit. Number one of God, number two of the calling on your life, and number three of being a human being and overcoming the stigma that is presented to us in our society. I don't know if that resonates to you, but those things stand out to me in what you were talking about.
And the whole process is hard, but it's worth it. So what does it mean to rise and roar? Sometimes rising is forcing yourself to get out of bed to go to work. Sometimes it's putting in the work behind the scenes for years before you ever grab a microphone or lift a hand or have a shoulder for someone else to cry on. You don't just start roaring immediately. It's a process, and there's no one size fits all blueprint. One thing our generation in particular that I've noticed struggles with is feeling like they need to have a voice right now and they need to be seen on TikTok and they need this, they need that. They need a nicer car, they need the newest phone. You don't need any of that. You need to shut up and listen. And we're groomed into this, you got to have it all together. It's not true. You're never going to have it all together. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you're going to overcome whatever obstacle you're going through. I don't know if it's officially deemed as it, but it seems as if we're in a financial recession. That carries a lot of weight for families that can't really afford to put the nicest shoes on their kid to go to school. It puts a lot of weight on parents to provide food for their families. It puts a lot of weight on, especially like we're recording this in December, like people getting ready for their kids and their friends to wake up on Christmas and have a gift under the tree.
Yeah.
And in a child's mind, they don't really understand, like, hey, there's a lot going on right now. Mommy and daddy can't really provide that shiny thing for you. And they'll get it when they get older. But I've heard a lot of stories of people just like after the kid goes to bed weeping because they couldn't give them whatever big shiny thing they want. And even as adults, we want that big shiny thing. We want that nice house. We want a nice car. We want this, that, and the other. And it's like you start paying for stuff and you realize it's not reality. Anybody can get a 30% loan. Have some grace for yourself. And you don't have to have it all together. When I step on stage, I'm stepping up as a broken man. If you listen to our lyrics or read through them, you're going to be like, dang, he's had a lot going on. And it's like, well, yeah, it's kind of the point of the band. And when you call a band Heal the Hurt, you're kind of setting yourself up to have some hard conversations often. Yeah. And I knew that when I did that. There's a scripture that says a joyful noise to the broken heart is like pouring salt into a wound. And I'm not here to pour salt on your wound. I'm here to meet you where you're at, share what I've gone through, and hopefully it encourages you to try to start having that inward dialogue for yourself and reconciling your heart and have good community. You need people in your corner, whether they're in person or online or whatever. Find somebody in your community, somebody struggling with the same stuff as you are. Some people have gone through the exact same thing. They just don't share it publicly. The worst thing you can do is just sit there and wither away in your own mind. You can't do it. Take it from me, I did it for a long time and it brought no fruit. I wasn't getting any better. The more you talk about things, the less they weigh on you. So find someone you trust and love on them and serve. People see the lights and the cameras and the merch table and they're like, oh, they've got it all together. And it's like, dog, like, nope. I'm figuring it out just like everybody else.
Yeah.
I just throw blast beats and guitar riffs over it and try to bring an experience for people to kind of escape that and be encouraged to walk away with something deeper than what meets the surface. The surface level is what you see. The depth is like hopefully what you hear and feel. And hopefully it encourages you to go out and do better.
Yeah. You're talking about music and how you connected there. A lot of people have different ways they connect, but tell me a way, share with us where music really personally helped you navigate the mental health struggles, and then maybe how that's shaped you now and even shaped your songwriting and your art. What is that like for you?
Music has always been an escape for me, and it's been a tool for the tool belt that I continue to find myself immersing myself in. And in particular, I remember hearing a song called No Ordinary Love by a band called Memphis Mayfire, and it's a prodigal son story. And the music video shows a kid like with his dad working at a convenience store, I believe. And the kid like takes his wallet, grabs money, he's out smoking and doing things he shouldn't do behind his dad's back, and his dad figures out what's going on and goes and finds him, and the kid got beat up in an alley or something for trying to kiss on one of his buddy's girlfriends or something, and the dad just finds him and embraces him and forgives him. And that was a very poignant story that resonated with me, not from like I was out doing drugs and sleeping around or anything, but the story, it hit me in the heart, seeing a father embrace his son like that, even though he had done him wrong so many times. And the dad figures out his money's been stolen when he's trying to pay for some milk and his money's not there. And that's what God does for us. He gives us that embrace no matter how far we flee from him. And in the midst of the struggles, when there was this album that Hillsong United did called Of Dirt and Grace, and it's just a stripped down version of some of their songs from an album called Empires, and they went and recorded it stripped down, and not like clothes stripped down, like the music was stripped down acoustic, like in the Holy Land. And I remember being on tour, and I was in Washington, D.C. as a teenager, fresh out of high school, struggling with panic disorder. I didn't want to go, but I forced myself to go. And that album in particularly, it helped me get through that and push through and be present and do the best that I could while I was there. And even to this day, I'll hear a song and I'll relate with it, and it'll encourage me. And with that knowledge on what God has used music to do in my life in those moments is what I take into the songwriting process. And a lot of these songs are written out of the desperation that I have for whatever scenario is going on in the song. It's all personal. None of it is made up. There's a song that we're working on right now called Holding Hands with Death, and it's my friend Mary's story of battling severe anorexia, and it's not always pretty. In fact, she's been holding hands with death, and the doctors have given up on her so many times, and she continues to stay and fight and proves it all wrong. and that song won't be out for months from now, but we're in the depths of pre-production and figuring everything out. And when I put out Stained Glass with Holy Name earlier last year, I got a lot of judgment for turning they're kind of borderline like metal worship band into a dark thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the song is about overcoming church hurt and struggles, things that I went through. And it couldn't be further from what it was getting painted as from, in some cases, the church. And I say that to say this. I'm not afraid to have the hard conversations. I'm not afraid to be misinterpreted. That has nothing to do with me and everything to do with what someone else is having stirred in their heart. And if they feel convicted by that, that's cool. I'm not going to explain myself.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to understand what God lays on your heart, and that's okay. My family that think what I'm doing is heretical because it's heavy and depressing to them. It's like, okay, go listen to bluegrass and go on with your day. Like, I'm not going to argue with you. Writing has been healing for me. And when I hear things like, this song saved my life, I like to correct them and say, the song didn't save your life. God used that song to help heal your heart in some way. And I'm really grateful to hear that. And it's encouraging to know that things that I thought would never leave my brain are helping others overcome those battles in their life. Because at the end of the day, whether people listen to it or not, I'm going to keep doing it. And not everything is going to be a Christian song, but it will invoke conversation and be from a Christian perspective, worldview, because that's how I live my life. And playing in bars and clubs across the country, you have a lot of interesting conversations with people that have had a good bit of alcohol in their system. And when they come to a metal show, they're not expecting to hear something super in depth. They're just wanting to hear breakdowns and get in a mosh pit and throw their hands around like wild men.
Yeah.
And some of the best conversations I've had are at merch tables in clubs after a show with people that came to hear blast beats and breakdowns. And they'll hear one thing I said, whether it's mental health, faith, or a lyric that they could understand. And that, to me, is one of the best parts of this job, if you would call it that. Having conversations with people that didn't come to have a conversation.
That's awesome.
Some people came to this event that you're hearing this at, and they didn't come to hear a conversation. Somebody invited them to a rock show to hear Undefeated. And they'll hear what Meredith or Lizzie or Christian have to say, and they'll feel it. They'll understand it. They'll hear something that you or I said, and they'll hear it or they'll feel it. And it may not hit them until a few weeks later when they're going through something and they have something in the tool belt that they didn't have before they came to this event. And I find that beautiful. And that's why this band exists. That's why I write music. And I just pray that even if you never listen to a song that we put out, that you hear something here that helps you understand that we're all broken. We're all going to have different callings in our life, and that's okay. You don't have to be understood for it to be effective. You may never hear from the person that it blesses. You got to stay strong in the race.
When you do hear from people, and I know you do because you spend a lot of time with people at shows, at the merch table. I know this summer there were plenty of times you guys could have just packed up and taken off because you're so tired, but you just stayed because it's that one
Stay
more
till
person.
they kick us out.
Yeah,
that's
that
what we
one
do.
more person that needs that conversation. But when you hear somebody say, "Hey, what you said, that helped me," or you get that conversation later on, "Hey, your music helped me through depression, anxiety, I didn't take my life because of something you said on stage. How do you carry that responsibility as an artist without it being overwhelming? And I think another layer to that is that you've walked through some of this darkness. So inherently, and I understand this because I've walked through darkness, there are high moments. And when you walk out of a high moment, like when you're on stage, a lot of letdown can happen when that adrenaline wears off, but you've got those words ringing through your head that somebody said, hey, it's because of you that I'm alive. How do you carry that responsibility as an artist and it not overwhelm you?
I constantly remind myself and my guys that it's not our weight to carry. And as being someone who's gone to a show and shared those things with someone that I look up to, I just try to give them a hug and give them attention and an ear to listen and encourage without taking it back with me. I'm just grateful to be in the room.
Mm.
I'm grateful to be able to talk with someone, and being on stage and all that is cool, but we're first and foremost there to, in my opinion, be available to have conversations with people. We're booked to play a rock show. We do that, and I'd like to think we do a fine job at it, but it's not the sole purpose, and it's not my weight to carry. When someone tells me they're suicidal, I oftentimes connect them with someone there volunteering at the event, because I can't keep up with everybody all the time. So I connect them with someone, that I refer them to either Death to Life, which is a nonprofit organization, Christian organization, or Heart Support. And it's not my weight to carry. So it's like I pass the baton on to someone in their community. And if they're not from that community, we find a way to give them something that they can take with them and encourage them to keep fighting. And we'll just try to love on them as best as we can. But at the end of the day, I can't take you home with me. It's not our responsibility. I hope that answers the question, but it's not that we like shrug it off, but it's not mine to carry.
Yeah, no, it's good.
I'm there to give you something to take with you.
Mhm.
And I know some people lose sleep over it, but I don't allow myself to fall into that situation. There are the select amount of times where I'm like, it's out of my hands. And you just have to remind yourself of that. Like, I'm not their pastor, I'm not their parent, I'm not their therapist. I'm there, and we did what we were there to do. And what they take home with them, knowledge, heart, and experience, I just pray that that blesses them, but I can't carry that for them.
Yeah. It's good. I think if you did carry that, it would shred you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you wouldn't
I couldn't do this.
You wouldn't be
I
doing
could
what
not
you're
do
doing.
this.
Yeah. It's not reasonable in the human realm to be able to do that. However, what you said though is important. The organizations that you
Mm-hmm.
point people to, you know, obviously you and your music are pointing people to Christ, but those organizations are real. They're practical, that people can reach out to. When you said that, I also think about organizations like the Hotline.com.
Mm-hmm.
And then another one, I think that was started by Seventh Day Slumber, Teen Hopeline,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not mistaken.
That's
Both
right.
of those, all of them are online and very helpful. You know, people can contact us here at Rise and Roar through this medium. We have people who are on call and do counseling. There are a lot of resources to find help. You know, I think what's important that you're doing is you're opening the conversation and you're saying to people, it's okay to not be okay. You don't have to have it all together, but here's the next step. I appreciate you saying that, because a lot of artists, I think, do try to bear the weight, and they get in trouble in a lot of ways.
I have a lot of friends that can't do meet and greets because it weighs on them too much. And like we said earlier, I stay at the merch table till they kick me out, and then we'll be at the front door. You can't carry that weight. It's not
No.
yours to carry. And you can't try to be God. You're going to fall and fail every time. You can't carry that weight.
Yeah. And I had a couple other questions for you. And I think, in this conversation, you've answered those a little bit. I had a question for you. What do you think that music can do for mental health and even our spiritual walk that, therapy or advice that we get from people sometimes can't? And I think there again, you're opening the conversation.
Yeah.
You're saying, listen, we don't have to care what everybody else thinks. We need help. Let's get it.
Yep.
And then pointing people. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You pour your heart into something and people resonate with it. What they do with that feeling or that embrace is up to them. But we're doing our best to provide something that gives hope, not on a surface level, but we're not trying to be God.
Mm-hmm.
You will fail every time. There's a God complex that comes to a lot of leaders, and even in the church, where they try to fix everything. And it's like, man, coming from someone who did that and royally fail every time, it's not yours to carry.
Yeah.
You start the conversation. You don't finish the conversation.
Mm.
It's like when you provide dialogue and you provide your stories and you bring hope to people, you can't get so consumed in, if you're called to disciple people, that's one thing. If you're not, and you try to, you're out of place. If you're called to do that, do that. If you're not called to do that, there's somebody else that is. You don't need to step in their calling. I hope that makes sense.
It does, and I think it answers another question that I had. What can musicians, bands, communities, what can we do better? What can we do practically to help? But I think you're answering that, because what I hear you saying is ultimately find your lane, get in your lane, stay in your lane. And if there's something that comes your way that is not in your lane, find the people who can help.
Yeah.
That's what I do as a pastor and as a counselor, is that there are a lot of things that come my way that still are beyond my scope, but I say, hey, I know somebody who can help with that. So I think the expectation has to be taken off of artists and even pastors, teachers, anybody that's out there in front of the public, that we have to know it all.
Yeah.
Because we're not God and we don't know it all, but let's find a way to find some help.
Yes.
I think a question I have for you, maybe following up with that, if there's somebody listening right now that feels stuck.
Yep.
They feel like nobody sees them. I'm invisible, which is something I hear a lot, especially from teenagers and young adults, is that I have a lot of friends, but nobody knows who I am.
Yeah.
What would you want them to know? What would you say to them right now?
You're not alone. There's so many church taglines that you could throw into stuff like this. And I'm like, I think it's simple. Even for the people that are carrying the torch and providing that hope, and then the people that are receiving it, both need to know they're not alone.
Hmm.
You're never alone. And just because you don't audibly hear God does not mean he's not listening and is not working, not answering your prayers. And not everything is going to get the answer you want. I feel like every band, to a certain extent, tries to be the biggest in the world, and It's not about that. How can I be the most effective in my calling? How can I equip myself and surround myself with the right people, team, friends, people I seek counsel from? How can I stay a student in life and realize that I'm never going to have all the answers? The minute you stop learning and you get that ego of I know everything, what are you doing?
Yeah.
For teachers, for pastors, for those seeking counsel, struggling, hurting, self-harming, suicidal, you're not alone.
When you said that at the beginning of your answer, I just felt myself take a deep breath. Just did it again. I could feel myself internally. And listen, I help a lot of people. I know a lot of the answers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still taking a deep breath because as humans, we need to know that we're not alone. If you're watching or listening, you're out there and you're struggling. You're in the darkness. You know, you can't find a way out. You're down. Everybody else around you is maybe they're putting you down or that you just feel invisible in a crowd. You're not alone.
We
And
have a song called Withering, and I referred to it earlier about the panic attacks and stuff in the video. The line that means the most to myself and has translated into the people that hear it is I won't be withering for long.
mm-hmm.
And the last time I say that live, I switch it to we won't be withering for long.
That's good.
Because it's true.
Listen, man, there's so much of your music that when I'm listening to it driving down the road, I'm just like, I'm screaming back at you. I just need you to know that because it's kind of like your some of those lyrics like that. Even yesterday, I was on the road for about a 40-minute drive, and I'm just like, yes, yes, say it again, you know, because it means something and it's helpful, and we need the reminders constantly. I really appreciate what you're doing. When I had the chance to meet you this summer, there was just something there that said, you're doing something important and meaningful and helpful. And I just began praying for you. I didn't know you, you didn't know me, but I just want you to know you're being prayed for. And
Thank you.
what you're doing is a huge encouragement. And again, for anybody watching or listening, it's okay not to have the answers. But let's work it out together. Let's walk together. You are not alone. Listen to what Trevor is saying. And if you get a chance, honestly, and you're into the heavy stuff, listen to Heal the Hurt. I mean, you will not be disappointed. That is some good stuff. What's up with you right now? Let's switch gears for a second. You've been doing a lot in the last couple of years. It's like a whirlwind for things that have just come in your way. A lot of collaborations, new music, tours, everywhere I turn. It seems like you're there.
Yeah. Over the last year, we've been, and even before the EP was out, we had begun writing, and we're in the thick of it now to try to get this collection of songs ready to go. And in the background, I've been working with my friend Tommy on building this Rock Against Traffic initiative to help provide quality aftercare to survivors of trafficking. And between that and being on the external affairs committee for heart support, just trying to figure out how to balance all of the things. And it's a never ending process of just, okay, you've got your main thing that you do, but what else can I do? And when I'm brought a collaboration, or in the case of Stained Glass, when I take a song to someone, I won't do it if it's not purposeful and intentional.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to tour and meet so many amazing people, and even all the way up to creating merch designs that hopefully inspire conversation within people, not just to raise funds to keep the music going because we're fully independent. All of it has to be taken in strides. And over the last year, I'd never played a show. I had done like guest spots and such up until the last week of January of this year. We had never met in person as a band. We had never rehearsed. 2 weeks before, we all got together. Then the next week, were we ready to tour? Like, we didn't have a local band time. We just, first one was touring the East Coast. It was like, nope, we had none of that. But we did it, and I'm grateful. I'd overcome a lot of mental obstacles and puking before shows and fighting these feelings, and it's been the most challenging yet beautiful season of my life, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. And if God were to say, lay it down right now, it'd be another one of the hardest decisions, but I'd have to do it. And all that to say, you make time for things you love and you feel like you're supposed to be a part of, and you figure it out as you go. You never have it all together, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So to answer the question, trying to lift arms where I can in everything I do, and also learning that it's okay to take a break and chill out and learn consistently. So the answer is figuring it out, and everything else in between. I love it, but at the end of the day, when the lights go out, when the speakers are turned off, and when the show's packed up and you're on to the next city, like you mentioned earlier, the adrenaline wears off and you are there with yourself and God, and the continuous struggle of figuring out how to find time to balance it all wouldn't work if there weren't time alone.
Yeah.
So even when you're alone, you're not alone. But it starts not at church, not at work, not necessarily at home. It starts in your heart. It starts in your mind. What are you getting your daily bread, or are you hungry as crap right now? Are you like starving? I'd say crack open the book of Proverbs and read about what a fruitful, meaningful, purposeful life is. And then go from there. Go into Job and read about all the struggles. Go read about Jesus withering in the garden. It's all there.
Yeah. That's good stuff. Thank you for sharing, brother. I don't know if you have anything you can talk about right now, anything for 2026, Heal the Hurt
All
we
of
need
it.
to be looking forward to?
All of it. Shows, new music, collaborations, initiatives. It's for the first half of the year, we're not going to be playing shows because there's just a lot of things that need my attention and laser focus on, other than music, more on the initiative side. And I feel like, the most logical thing would be, let's get on the road and keep doing that and grow the brand. And it's like, well, there's people that are in life or death situations that me investing that time there is going to be the priority. And music is, I'm always laser focused on that. I'm always working on it. I'm writing every day. The music videos and everything, all that's cool, but I never want to get to a point where I'm too busy to put my time and attention where I feel as if it's going to be the most impactful. And our manager would differ on that decision, but at the end of the day, that's where I really feel like we're supposed to be. And I pray that God blesses it and provides the funds to finish the album and things, to where in the last half of the year we can hit it hard and continue to carry this message on.
Good times. Appreciate it, man. Tell us where you want to point us to in terms of finding out more about you, what you're involved in, Heal the Hurt, anything that you want to say, hey, I want you to check this out right now.
Our mission statement's on our website, healthehurtband.com. IRunAgainstTraffic.com is a place I'd like to send people to learn more about what we're doing on the organizational side for providing quality aftercare for survivors of trafficking. And then if you're struggling, Heart Support and then Death to Life, if you just Google those are both great organizations with resources to help you through those crises. And then Resolution Movement, my friend Ben Bennett is doing a lot of great work on the intersection of faith and mental health, and there's a lot of resources there as well. So not necessarily here to promote the band. I want people to walk away with something meaningful, and if it's that, cool. If it's one of those, amazing. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be able to come and virtually speak to you and your community. So thank you for having me. It really means the world, and I'm grateful that we could find time to do this.
Yes, sir. It's been a privilege. Thank you so much.
Thank you.